Right, thank you. All right, I'm going to call to order the June 25th, 2026 Lexington Planning Commission meeting. First item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Do we have any changes that need to be made or alterations? If not, I'll take a motion and a second.
I move to approve the minutes. To approve the agenda as presented.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next item is approval of the minutes from the July 11th, 2026 meeting. They looked very, very complete to me. Did anybody catch anything that
I
I
had a
didn't?
couple things in the first paragraph under new business staff report. So the first time I read it through, I noted that the use of the acronym PDC, and I was like, what is that exactly?
Oh.
I sort of figured it out, but throughout the document, there are a lot of these acronyms that are being used, and I'm not sure that they're common usage. So it would be best to spell out what they refer to. The third line from the bottom of the page starts with the word next and ends with a period. There needs to be something added there for public hearing next. Something.
Sorry, where are you?
This is under staff report on page 1 of 3 of the minutes. The first word
Oh,
of the
I see
third
it.
line up is next. It needs to be something after that. Under the last sentence on that page, additional comments have been provided earlier that day. I was wondering, whose comments those were. Are those public comments? Are they commission comments? A modifier there would be good too.
Right, and that was referred to later.
Right.
The 3 letters from residents on Whitmore Street. So, all right, what are the remedies? Are we looking at spelling out like Planning District Commission?
Yes.
Are there any others that you
There-
want?
I think VDOT is pretty common.
Yeah.
Usage. CSPDC, that's pretty, I think.
So we could add Central Shenandoah PDC.
I think that would be good. There was PUD under part C on the towards the bottom of the second page of the minutes. PDMU at the bottom of that page, maybe. I would leave it up to staff to figure out which of those.
Well, I
need to
think
be.
we have to have.
Okay.
So PUD, does that need to actually be PDR? Arnie?
We're actually amending the old PUD
Right.
to a PDR, so it depends on how you wanted to go forward with it. That was what was on the agenda, I presume. It still is on the agenda, so that's how it was.
PUD.
Consistency, that's how it was listed on the agenda.
So then city council will have a public hearing next. When?
Could you move next and city council
Next public meeting.
will next have a public hearing?
Or-
Or will subsequently?
How about that city council will have a public hearing after it is, after it goes through planning commission?
Sure.
After,
Okay, yeah.
after approval or recommendation by,
I was misreading that. Now I see. Public hearing next. That's the next thing to happen.
that's right,
Is the public hearing.
correct. All right, so Central Shenandoah, you want to spell out PUD. I I would say maybe we need to, going forward, call it PDR so that everybody's on the same page.
And those were public comments, I think, that were received. Additional public comments.
Yes. Yep, so add public on the last, in the last sentence on page 1.
I noted one other really important item on,
Okay.
you can tell I'm kidding, right?
Yes, I can.
On page 3 of 3, about the middle of the first paragraph, left word, standalone is a run-on word. Is that is that a single word or is it 2 words?
I'm not sure.
If it wasn't,
Standalone of a word on its own, or does it need to be separated standalone? I think it might be, I think it's one word. I think it's a
go with
compound.
it.
I think it's a compound word.
I think I can live with that.
Okay.
Do you want me to spell them out every time or the
No,
first time too?
Just the first use.
The first time, and then put the acronym in parentheses after, and then you can use the acronym after that.
That's proper.
Okay, anything else? Alrighty, thank you for catching all of that. So now we need a motion and a second.
I move to approve the minutes as amended.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Did you all vote?
Yeah, I.
Okay, opposed, and motion carries unanimously. Okay, next up is citizens' comments on matters that are not on the agenda for today. Do we have anyone who would like to make a comment? All right, I'm going to close that back up. Moving on to new business. CPA 2025-01 Lexington Comprehensive Plan 5-year review, public hearing continued. Arnie, do we have a staff report?
Only a small update, excuse me, in that the presentation or the slides that you have in here were updated for the comments that were provided from the last meeting. The advertisement is still good. Jeremy did provide us today with an updated version of the entire comprehensive plan with those few updates that were suggested at the last meeting. We did not print one out. We now have it linked on our website. So the updated final draft is provided on our website.
Great, thank you. Okay, and Jeremy is not joining us, I take it.
Right.
Okay. All right, and this is a new comment, new comments? No, these are the same comments,
Except for John Driscoll's.
except for John's, yeah. Okay, and that included John's, is that correct? Does the update that you sent?
Fortunately, Jeremy provided a quick little blurb in the email, and I didn't print it out to state what it is that was changed from the previous version.
Okay.
And I don't recall if John's comments, but he did provide a number. A majority of them were punctuation, but there were a couple that were a little bit more substantive. I presume that they're in there, but I cannot say for certain at this point that they are included in that final draft, but I believe that they are.
And I did not double check that. So, I would say that maybe we want to just, as commission, did you all have a chance to look over John's comments? Do you all have any concerns about making the changes that he suggests? So I think we would, when we, assuming that we approve this, we would just want to make sure that in the language we say, as you know, that as long as it includes John Driscoll's comments.
Even though I'm almost certain that does include, the good thing is, even if it doesn't include and you approve something tonight, he's got another shot at changing this when it comes before them. So it's not like those comments will get lost.
Right, but we do, I think we could just take care of it tonight instead of having to have it go forward. Okay. Anything else on your staff report, Arnie? Okay. All right, so I'm gonna open it up to public comment about the comprehensive plan. Anybody? No. Okay, closing public comment. Oh,
Check to see. So is this the
yeah, come on, if you would like to make a comment, then come on up and state.
public hearing part or is just comment?
This is the public hearing. And state your name and address for the record, please.
Fred Reed, 700 Plunkett Street, Lexington. I'm coming mainly because it was a public hearing. I wanted to make sure at least one person showed up.
Thank you.
And recently I've been focusing on Whitmore Street, and I believe you've received some comments about Whitmore Street. So I really have kind of a question is the plan update that he referred to and so forth, does that incorporate any of the comments that have been received regarding Whitmore?
So it does not, but that's only because Whitmore Street, so this is sort of a 20,000 feet look down at the next 20 years. Whitmore Street is something that Public Works will be addressing. It's on their list, and Arnie has forwarded those, the letters. I don't know if you forwarded the letters, but the concerns about Whitmore Street and the need for sidewalks, both at the top and at the bottom, to Public Works. So they are looking into that. And I believe that you said it's also been incorporated or pulled into city councils, and they're going to be in. I won't speak to that. You speak to that.
Since we are at a high level, we have a lot of language already in the transportation section for the strategies that talk about improving sidewalks and bikeways and whatnot. So those projects would be consistent with that language, but we don't put individual projects into the comprehensive plan. Those get added to the capital improvement plan if council wants them added to the capital improvement plan and approves them that way.
Right.
So the specific addition of sidewalks and improvements to the corner of Main to Whitmore and from Whitmore to Jackson were not specifically added as a project in the comprehensive plan, because again, this is a overarching document, more about policy statement than about specific projects. But those three comments so far have definitely been provided to the Director of Public Works for his consideration when they are discussing how to spend sidewalk money.
Okay. I guess that's the answer. It just, the plan seems inconsistent in regards to Whitmore Street. It claims that it's a neighborhood corridor and everything, but there's no mention of, bringing it up to the standards and so forth, whether it mentions a specific project or not. It seems like either the plan should show Whitmore as a major street and get the appropriate infrastructure plan for it, or it's not a major street and it shouldn't have the infrastructure. It just seems a little inconsistent. But I think the idea of providing some fixes at the intersections, as Arnie mentioned, was something that was discussed amongst the neighbors as well. If they're going to tell us they can't afford sidewalks, what would we do in the meantime to keep kids safe? And
Right.
I think that was that idea. So I could see that being a short-term project. Whether it belongs in the big plan or not, I don't know. But that was my main question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for speaking out and for writing the letters. Well, but you clearly were in touch with the folks. Yes, you were involved. So we did receive them and we did read them and we talked about them at the last meeting, at the first part of the public hearing. So we did in fact talk about them. Yeah. Okay, so now we are on to commission discussion and potentially a decision about this. Does anybody have any comments that they would like to make about the plan at this point?
My only comment would be a little bit sort of piggybacking on what Fred was saying about, you know, maybe in general, we could emphasize the corridors as being a high priority. How about that? I think that is worth,
Do you have a place? where that-
I do not. So I'll let Arnie weigh in on that. Or the commission, maybe under transportation,
Right.
but just
Also be green infrastructure. I mean, they're closely related and we are, in terms of Whitmore, talking about walking and biking more than cars.
well, under the goals, for example, it says
Which page are you on?
this is number 12. Build on interconnected and attractive transportation network that provides all residents with safe and efficient mobility choices. Especially along the corridors, including automobile, bicycle, and pedestrian travel.
And I'm sorry, which one? The transportation?
Yes, yes. It wouldn't be hard to add that there.
I also like, down under the hands up in the air, use citizen input to guide decisions regarding community transportation network improvements and opportunities.
There you go.
Here we are.
Yep.
So
Sorry, I was trying to apologize. I was trying to find something in the transportation section.
It's under goals.
You're on page 12.
Well, it's
13.
12.
13, 12.
Well,
This says 12 in our packet,
Of the
with
packet.
Arnie.
Oh, I'm looking. in the
Sorry,
plan.
yeah,
So, but if it's page 12, then that's,
goals.
but that is his. Okay. So on page 12, and then we'll find out where it actually is in the thing. Could you please state again where you would like that emphasis?
Build on interconnected and attractive transportation network that provides all residents with safe and efficient mobility choices. Focusing on the corridors, on our corridors, on our neighborhood corridors.
So these are identified corridors.
Okay.
Where are, no, I mean, oh. Is that,
on the map,
Yeah, you have that on your future land use
Right.
map.
and it is identified.
right, and it is indeed, there it is.
Or more wiggle room, does it help at all to say corridors? Because you have civic corridors, which are your bigger streets, and neighborhood corridors, or do you specifically mean neighborhood corridors?
I would say both.
I would agree.
Say like prioritizing corridors.
Mm-hmm. That's
So prioritizing identified corridors.
You could just add that to the end of that
Yes, exactly.
after
Mhm.
the travel.
Prioritizing identified corridors. Thank you. That was a great and very elegant solution.
well brought up. Mhm.
Yes. And it addresses an issue that I was going to bring up, but I think now I don't need to. But I mean, I'll say it out loud. About the corridor on here, which is the bypass, which is a civic corridor here going down and connecting the neighborhood, the East Lexington neighborhood with the rest of the city. So that's another area, and that's both got a neighborhood corridor and the sort of major civic corridor. So there has been talk of a flyover, which is, would be quite expensive. There, I believe, has also been talk about a like on-demand light, pedestrian crossing light. I'm not sure how that would work. But anyway, the language that you just presented, I think would address that as well.
Where is that, Shannon, if I may ask?
You mean
Oh, it's
on the
over
map?
here, over here?
Yeah,
right
it
there?
would be, so it would be some.
Oh, okay.
So it actually, like you could sort of hook it in to easy access to Richardson Park.
Okay.
But there's a whole neighborhood over here.
But when the bypass went through, I don't know whether that was actually originally part of Lexington and they got cut off. Or whether that was part of the annex.
So I think I understand it. The only street that actually made that connection that was disconnected would have been Hook Lane. So
Okay,
I'm not sure that there were any other connections that went over when the bypass went through.
right. Yeah, I don't know. So, okay. Anything else?
I have one teeny tiny, just a question on maybe the verbiage here on page 13 of our packet. Under community services and infrastructure, planning element, the hands raised. Commit to engaging community members in substantive policy and decision-making to provide the highest possible level of service provision. I think we're of service?
Of
End
service
s-
period,
End of
yeah.
statement?
Yes.
Okay. That was it. That was it.
Get rid of the last word. Thank you. Redundant. Okay. I did have one concern. I'm not quite sure how to address this concern. And I was working off of John's comments. So on page 22, under the governance chapter section. So he says page 146, third paragraph, sentence on 65% of the total assessed value of all land parcels is not taxed. We've been using the 65% figure for many years. Given the recent citywide property assessment, should the percentage figure be updated? And then he provides a table that was presented in June earlier this month to City Council. And it was so I'm concerned about changing that mostly just because it seems like a skewed value. I'm not clear why the exempt parcels were not assessed at a higher rate. It seems we're helping we're helping ourselves by not raising the tax rate on or the value of these exempt parcels. But we're also, yeah, I mean, just the amount that went up, the 31, almost 32% that total taxable properties went up from 685 million to 904 million in value. And the difference for the so that's almost, well, it's over 210 million dollars, whereas the exempt parcels only went up 65 million. And so I have I'm concerned about that figure. And so I would be concerned about changing a number to reflect this figure, which seems odd to me. So that,
What it's worth, I have an email into their finance director to answer that, and I forgot to check back in with her to see if the 61% is the actual new 65%, if that makes any sense with this new assessment that has gone forward. We're also in the point where while the assessment had been accomplished, people still have the right to appeal. And I'm not sure that's going to change that number drastically, but just to make you aware, it's not a final number just because people do have the right to appeal their assessments, and that takes a period of time. So I believe the entire assessment process doesn't really get finalized until all of that is put away, which is going to be, I think, towards the end of the year. Not sure that helps with your conversation on whether or not you want to change a number, but we are looking into whether or not it, according to what was provided here, whether or not it makes sense to change that number.
Could we say that that's the number from when that number was created and make a note that it needs updated at the next 5 years?
We certainly could. It doesn't really address my concern about, which isn't really an issue for us to decide. It's just about whether we change the number in the comp plan.
It
But,
sounds like it's premature to change that figure
right,
right now anyway.
yes, and I guess what I would say is maybe Arnie, you could take a comment back to the people who do those assessments and maybe find out why the exempt parcels, which are twice the value, like if they went up the same amount that the taxable parcels went up, it would have been quite a big bump. And so I'm curious about why those pieces of property did not go up in assessed value. The exempt,
And our city manager, he will be asking that question. So will Jen, just for the curiosity of it all, and our Commissioner of Revenue. But I think perhaps that those things maybe don't need to be nailed down, given sort of how we're including that number. As far as a policy change or something that doesn't really affect something specific. So would it be your preference to leave it at the 65% number as it is in here, or for your recommendation, or to go with the 61%, not knowing all the details of how that number was achieved?
what if we did the 65, left it at 65 with an ask, like a footnote? I assume we can do footnotes.
In your recommendation, you can, and then we'll be looking into that. We also have a little bit of time because transportation chapter is going to VDOT, and they're going to take a month to 3 months to review, so we can clarify this point
Okay.
during that period of time before there is a public hearing with city council on this comp plan update.
Okay. Does that sound good to have a footnote that says, that this number, I'm not quite sure what the footnote would say, honestly, that it is not, and I don't know. I mean, I guess you could put the 61% and then say, this is not accurate, this is,
Was not updated with the footnote, like this number was not updated at the time of the 5-year review.
sure.
Well, then put it in at 65%, not 60.
No,
Yes,
65
yeah,
and
leave
then
it at
the number was
65,
not updated.
exactly.
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay. Anything else? All right, so I think we need a motion and a second at this point. And I would say, I just remind whoever makes that motion that we had talked about making sure that John Driscoll's comments are included in what we have approved.
Would it be to approve the 5-year review? Like how would that even be?
So what kind of language, did you provide language somewhere in here? So it would say something like, I vote to, or I move to approve the Lexington Comprehensive Plan 5-year review, with the comments, from John Driscoll
the amendment
included.
Today
I'm sorry.
Amendments.
and the amendments. I move to approve the 5-year review, comprehensive plan, including John Driscoll's comments that were added and with the amendments made during the June 25th, planning commission meeting.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, moving it on to city council. All right, next item on the agenda is the zoning text amendment continued discussion. So we are now on page 23. No, yes, 23. And so let's see. Arnie, do you have a staff report?
I do. On page 25, what we talked about a good bit last time was your intent and purpose statement. And then hope was after that, that maybe we would start into some of the sections of the code using the old PUD as our basis. You see on top page 25, I tried to do a strike through and underline, and it got so messy. It was just easier for me to put a strike through the current language, but you have that there. And if I remember correctly, and I apologize if I'm going to miss some of these items specifically, but the note here that's in parentheses, following is a combination of the intent and purpose statement above. So the old one or the previous one, along with your PC recommendation that you made during your last meeting, and some staff alterations. You had directed staff to try to pick up a few words or ideas from the Charlottesville version, if I remember correctly. And to the best of my ability, that's what you have here as a sort of revised and proposed or drafted intent and purpose statement. And I'm going to read that in the record if it's okay. The planned development residential PDR concept encourages and permits variation in residential developments that is more creative and, where possible, more environmentally sensitive than is possible in conventional residential zoning districts. There's two possibles in there. Okay. Next sentence, regulatory flexibility provided in the PDR concept promotes the efficient use of land by allowing the development of parcels that are considered difficult to develop for a variety of reasons, such as limited lot size and limited street frontage. In addition to an improved quality of design, the PDR district creates an opportunity to expand housing options for persons of all income levels, to increase density, and to protect neighborhood character with appropriate and harmonious physical development. And again, that's pulling in from at least 3 different sources, trying to, and I'm certainly willing to, I'm interested to hear your comments.
Would you like to have that are you
I
ready?
think so. If you all want to go ahead and jump into that, because the idea I think for tonight is for you to take another review of that, make changes as needed, and then we'll start into the other sections.
Okay. Do you have anything else, excuse me, for staff?
Anything else for this section?
Okay. So I'm gonna just open the floor up for public comment real quick. Nope. And we're gonna close it up. All right. So we can move on to commission discussion. Okay. Thoughts?
Did a good job.
Okay, I've got some comments. So what I noted is that this whole paragraph is more of a statement of what it is rather than a statement of intent. And in the previous one, I believe the word intent, in the second sentence, it says its intent is to. And since the section of this section is titled intent and purpose, I think we just want to make it super clear. I think using that word would be a good idea. So there's that. And then I don't have necessarily I haven't reworded that. I don't have a rewording recommendation there. I do have some other rewording recommendations in the 5th line down. At the end, it says such as limited lot size. And I would say rather than limited, aren't we looking at unusual? The examples that you gave us were sort of unusual lot sizes. So like triangles, or as opposed to, well, my lot size is too small. And I want to put a house on it anyway, even though the zoning doesn't allow me to do that.
I think it's both, but I don't think, because the sentence is already getting long, can we find something else that accomplishes both of those things?
um, that encompasses
Includes-
both limited and unusual. Well, you could just say limited or unusual lot size or limited street frontage.
Okay.
And I would use or instead of and, just because if you say and, sometimes people read it as it has to be both.
It has to be, such as unlimited or unusual lot size and limited street frontage.
Or limited street
Or-
frontage. Yeah. Um, the next sentence after that says, in addition to an improved quality of design. Is that actually something that's true? Does it improve the quality of the design?
I think that's certainly in most cases what we're hoping for is that this, if we're going to allow flexibility, what's the trade-off? Density, hopefully, environmental improvements, hopefully, and an improvement in design. That came from one of the sections. I can't remember. I don't have all my notes in front of me, but
So this brings up a comment that I had last time as well as this time, which is the first sentence here makes it seem as though the primary purpose of adopting this PDR,
PDR.
is to encourage permit variation in residential developments so that it's more creative and where possible more environmentally sensitive. So it's like we're trying to, what we're primarily trying to do is improve creative and environmental sensitivity, or is it really to more efficiently and effectively utilize difficult to use lots? First, that's the real intent of this, is not to promote
That-
creative design, although I like that,
Right.
or to promote environmental sensitivity, although I like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they should still be here. But isn't the real purpose of this to utilize lots that are difficult under current zoning to develop?
That's certainly my impression, Charlie. So difficult. So what if we incorporated those two things? So the intent and purpose of the PDR is,
It's written right here. Efficient use of land by allowing the development of parcels that are considered difficult to develop for a variety of reasons. So it's
sorry,
there.
where,
It's just secondary rather than primary. which-
I'm sorry, where are you?
I believe the second sentence, what you're pointing out, it needs to be the first sentence.
That's what I'm saying.
And
Okay,
not
yep.
necessarily start with regulatory flexibility, but perhaps the PDR concept, the intent of the PDR concept
exactly.
is regulatory flexibility provide, or not, have a better intro to the second sentence as the
Yeah.
first sentence.
Yes.
Exactly.
So the intent of the PDR
Is to
is to,
promote
yep,
the efficient use of land by allowing the development of parcels that are considered difficult to develop for a variety of reasons. And there we might after the comma, we might quibble. But take the language directly from that second sentence.
how about then after that, for a variety of reasons, while also improving design density and
Environmental. sensitivity.
environmental sensitivity?
Yeah.
Like
Sure.
combine them all in the first sentence, and then you can, add additional details. But make it clear that that's the intent up front. Does that make sense to you, Arnie?
I was writing, so I didn't catch all that. So can we just go back to the intent of the PDR district is to promote, and then we pick up
If,
the
right,
efficient use of land. Is that correct?
yes.
By allowing the development of parcels that are considered difficult to develop for a variety of reasons. And Shannon, I can't remember where you were putting in the
Yep,
while.
right there, right there.
Yeah,
And while also improving or encouraging improved design, increased density.
Environmental.
I'm letting him write.
While improving design, I
While-
don't know that
while
that has to be in our,
encouraging improved design.
Arnie presented that as a trade-off.
Hmm.
So we're letting you landowner,
Mhm.
have more flexibility in developing this parcel. And in return, you're giving us some innovative, creative, interesting design
Right.
and maybe some environmental sensitivity.
Right.
Maybe
And
some
then,
increased
and environmental sense, right. So that needs to be at the end of that sentence. But then I think, we definitely have to leave in, the PDR district. I wouldn't, so this is just jumping into the end of this paragraph. The PDR district creates an opportunity to expand housing options for persons of all income levels. I would actually say either in some cases to increase density or to increase density where appropriate.
I had trouble honestly with the density portion, where to put it in here. And I was hoping that just because immediately following the density is the protect neighborhood character with appropriate and harmonious physical development. I'm
Yeah.
not sure that that covers it enough, but I did struggle a little bit with how to put the density concept in there.
So, right, I would say, I mean, it's not always going to be, right? We're not always going for increased density. Is that, I mean, so to increase density where appropriate while protecting neighborhood character.
it's good.
So the only thing that's lost is the limited, the characteristics of the parcels that create these opportunities.
So then we can add that in right after that.
Cool.
So it could say, PDR, the PDR, I don't think we need to say that it promotes efficient land use, but we could say the PDR district, may be used to develop parcels considered difficult to develop for a variety of reasons, including limited or unusual lot size or limited street frontage.
I'm not feeling so warm to the where it says unusual. To me, that doesn't belong there. Limited,
Yeah, the reason I suggested using the word unusual is because some of the parcels that Arnie has talked about that have used the PUD in prior times were these unusual. It wasn't that it was necessarily too small. It was that they were odd sizes, odd shapes.
How do you typically refer to odd shaped parcels?
Non-standard?
I like that. Non-standard lot size and limited,
Connecting to the internet.
How about that?
Oh.
non-standard, I like that.
All right, so limited or non-standard? Or do you want to just say non-standard lot size or limited street frontage?
Yeah, non-standard lot size.
That's good.
What is a standard lot size, though?
Rectangular.
Well, rectangular in shape or square, but as far as standard in size, just whatever we have in our lot requirements table, 10,000 square feet, 12,000 square feet.
All right, so how about non-standard lot size or shape?
non-standard shaped lots.
How about this? How about since we've already, and I'm not keeping up, to be quite honest. We moved the second sentence to the first, change that how we have seen or spoken about, and then try to accommodate some of the things that have been mentioned tonight and bring it back to you.
Yes,
Okay,
So we don't necessarily have to wordsmith, because I'm already a bit
think-
lost on what the second sentence is going to be. But we have the concepts here. It'll be up to us to reweave them.
I think,
Okay.
I think that's great. So as long as we start with the intent of the PDR
Correct.
and then make sure that we definitely include the appropriate and harmonious physical development, neighborhood character, all that sort of,
We won't change anything. We'll
just
reorder it and then let you all have another shot at it.
Okay, that sounds great. All right, you want to lead us through the next?
What I really only have prepared is the next three sections. Happy to discuss those as long as you like. The applicable districts. So again, where are we applying this particular concept, this PDR concept that we've just talked about, the intent and some of the characteristics? Where will it be applicable? The first sentence there is the language that we currently have in the old, or the original, I should say, PUD. So that would be changed to the PDR zoning district may be authorized in all residential zoning districts. So that's one option for your consideration, because I think we have, and we kind of, well, we do need to make sure that we include specifically or don't include RLC, residential like commercial, because that's that zoning district that's some residential and some commercial, but that's a side comment. I believe we've talked and agreed that this should only be for the residential zoning districts.
I don't remember that.
and like commercial is not included is what you're.
Well,
saying.
that's, you need to make that decision of whether or not it includes that or not, but or at least the intent of this is residential uses, not a combination of residential and commercial uses.
So I'm just looking at the map. So the RLC is,
Orange.
so it's the hospital. It's the Spotswood property.
And I'm going to tack this in another way too, in the second option for your consideration. So because the PUD was an overlay,
Mhm.
so it made sense to grab the underlying zoning districts because it overlaid the underlying zoning districts. Do you perhaps want to consider a different option, which is following more of the method that we used for the PDMU zoning, which tied it to your future land use map, in the sense that it was tied to the opportunity areas. So that's the last paragraph on the bottom of page 25, as an example, pulls from a couple of different ideas or places. So that instead of trying to attach it to residential zoning districts, because again, we're not going to have an overlay. This is, if somebody comes in with an R1 zoning district, they're going to rezone to PDR. So what are you pulling from? You're not pulling from residential zoning districts anymore, as you would in an overlay. So because of the structure being different, I may recommend and read into that the record, page 25, the last paragraph. PDR district is intended to be established in areas designated as suburban neighborhood, traditional neighborhood, and mixed use neighborhood on the future land use map in the comprehensive plan, and may be established in areas with adequate infrastructure, including roadway, water, sewer, etc. So, and we had one of these, one of the other ones had the same example. So instead of pulling from, again, the residential districts, because there's not an overlay, do you want to instead say it's appropriate and use in areas and refer to areas on the future land use map?
I'm just looking to see how that changes.
It is a significant change, admittedly.
No, yeah, I mean, I mean, I understood what you're saying. I'm just looking to see how different these are.
There are one or two places that I noticed if there's a house in a parks and open space district, as an example, then we couldn't apply PDR to that because it's in the parks and open space in the green area. But that there aren't many of those.
Yeah.
So there are some differences. I'm not saying that you cannot tie it to a residential zoning district, but it's a little bit of a consistency thing with what we've already done with planned development and mixed use. Just as an example.
I have to say that I find my brain is having a hard time sort of figuring out if we don't sort of pull up from whatever the as if it was an overlay. So let's say just on any given street, I don't know, maybe Jefferson. There's some big, long lots on Jefferson that go way back. So let's say somebody on Jefferson wanted to develop like they subdivided, they were somehow allowed to subdivide. And then they wanted to put PDR zoning on it. What could they put there? I mean, they could put anything. Is that anything as long as it maintains the character, and that's up to planning commission to decide, and then city council?
It's going to go through the public hearing process because the benefit of this is they're going to have to show you a plan much more detailed than you would get in a regular rezoning application. And then you would evaluate that by your standards. And there's more flexibility here. So that's perhaps where some of the discomfort lies.
Yeah.
But we haven't gotten to what the standards are and how many guardrails we're going to place on this. But you also will have your criteria to fall back on. So when you see a development come in for, I don't know, 10 units on a lot in the middle of a block, and you just think that that's not appropriate, given all the other houses around it are single family detached, then you have the ability to either cut that down or deny it. You cut it back. I mean, not cut it down, cut it back to 4 units or whatever seems to be more appropriate. That's why the criteria are going to be terribly important. To use a phrase from before, you need to have enough flexibility to say yes, but also have enough to say no when it's not appropriate.
Right. And recognizing that saying no can be hard.
Where is the criteria going to show up again?
Well, as we get into the districts and after we get the uses, there's development standards in 420-180, just as an example.
Okay.
But we are also sort of hedging towards, I'm gonna use density. Maybe we don't use a density standard except for one upper level. Because we can't now pull from underlying zoning districts where we had before. Density cannot be increased over what is in the underlying zoning district is what the old PUD had. Maybe we don't include that, but we say no more than 20 units per acre, or, set some upper level so that to make sure that they can't go to a crazy number, whatever that is, just so there's a guardrail there. That's one way of handling that. But we haven't gotten to those discussions yet.
Good to be aware of it.
Yes. Yeah. So I guess in terms of whether we base it on just saying that it may be authorized in, and I would say instead of all, I would say any residential zoning district.
How about we spell them out? That may be more helpful.
Particular, you mean just because we're not talking about RLC or
Well,
I'm
that's
not
your-
sure why we're not talking about RLC, honestly.
Are two things there. So one would be that perhaps we change it to maybe authorized in existing R1, R2, RM, and whether or not you include RLC or not, zoning districts, and that clarifies it so that it's when the existing zoning, so again, people are trying to rezone it to PDR. So they can pick from existing zoning, they can just go to the zoning map and find those parcels that way, as opposed to doing the future land use map. So that certainly is an option. PDR, we always have to be a little bit cognizant of, that's that hybrid district, has some residential components to it, but it also has commercial. So when we split short-term rentals, where did we want folks to be primary residents? We R1, R2, and RM, and we put RLC with the commercial zoning districts. So we just had to designate, in this case, is RLC in the commercial side or is it on the residential side? Just saying residential zoning districts makes that unclear.
Yes, indeed it does. Well, clearly, I mean, I certainly agree that we should list them as you suggested there if we go in that direction. And I think that it makes sense to use the future land use map. I mean, it does make sense to me. Because we're saying that this is the future we want, and the PDR is not. I don't know. We wouldn't want something going in through the PDR process that wouldn't go along with the future land use map.
The good thing also backstop there is anything that gets rezoned not only has to be consistent with the zoning, but it has to be consistent with the
Right.
comprehensive plan, which is where the future land use map
Right,
resides.
right. So I guess I would say going with the second paragraph down there, but maybe also, I mean, or can you leave them? Sorry, can you have both of those statements?
Oh, I think that's going to get confusing. I think you pick, just for clarity, I think you pick one method or the other. But I'm not saying it has to be chosen tonight. If you
Yeah.
mean just for the next meeting or for consideration, we can certainly leave that in.
So, well, then maybe it just needs to have the wording be a little bit different, like the PDR zoning district, adding the word zoning. And do we want to say maybe authorized instead of is intended to be? I think maybe authorized is more directive.
So you like the first one, Shannon?
No, I'm trying to sort of marry the two. So the PDR zoning district may be authorized in areas designated as suburban neighborhood, traditional neighborhood, and mixed-use neighborhood on the future land use map in the comprehensive plan, et cetera. I mean, I like it because that does sort of say it's a nod towards the comprehensive plan and all of the work that has gone into sort of thinking about the future. That just makes more sense to me. What do you all think?
I'm in favor of using comprehensive plan.
Okay. Mary Stewart.
The second sentence does cover it very nicely. I don't know why we can't use that and just instead of, and then add where you put in the PDR zoning district, and then use the rest of it, and may be established in areas with adequate entry.
I have a quibble about that too. Would we want to say existing adequate infrastructure or adequate existing infrastructure? Adequate seems a little soft to me.
Right, I agree. Maybe established in areas with
Adequate is measured by, I guess, the proposed development.
Good thing is we're in an area where all of our parcels have existing infrastructure. And in most cases, it is adequate for additional dwelling units as an
That
example.
is good news.
So it's not as though we have some greenfield developments where we would have to pull or add sewer, water, stormwater to it.
Would this be an area that we would add the word sidewalks? With existing infrastructure, including roadway, sidewalks, water, sewer, et cetera? I mean, that,
Our sidewalks aren't as ubiquitous,
I know they're
far
not.
ranging. So I would hate for somebody to read that to think, oh, I don't have a sidewalk, therefore I can't do
Yeah.
PD and a PDR. Because that part can be negotiated, if through the development process, it needs to be put in, we can either negotiate with the developer or we can put the sidewalk in.
Right, okay. So sorry, Mary Stuart, how are you recommending, or maybe it was Charlie? The word adequate,
Either adequate or appropriate. Appropriate,
existing.
you like existing. Okay, but some.
So appropriate existing infrastructure, including roadway, water, sewer. Does that work?
Mhm.
Arnie, do you see any problems with that?
Adequate means that there's enough for that capacity to do. Appropriate may mean
Something different.
something else, and I don't know what else, but
But what if they're talking about putting in, 4 houses on that one lot or 6 houses on that one lot, smaller houses, of course, but, shouldn't the, I mean, right now, maybe it's not,
adequate.
adequate, but
We will also. It's either gonna be at their expense or at our expense, and that's to be negotiated, so it will be made adequate through the development process.
So adequate existing infrastructure.
We can do that.
okay.
Okay,
For now, should we leave the two options in, the zoning and the future land use, or do you have a preference? And maybe some of the homework to be assigned to you all is to go through the map to see where the inconsistencies may be between zoning map, zoning districts and future land use districts. There aren't many, but there are certainly some.
can you point them out to us?
So one of the ones that,
Since you already know it, I bet.
well, one of the ones that struck me when I was going through the same exercise, where was it? It was somewhere in the Raro area. So where that building is, found a house that was in Parks and Open Space. So if you go by the future land use designation, and Parks and Open Space is the designation for that house, if their house happens just by whatever means and purposes ends up being in Parks and Open Space, then that property would not be available for planned development residential.
Is that the one that's on Spotswood? That abuts the cemetery? Is that what you're talking about?
No, I can't. I found it somewhere closer to Woods Creek Park, and I'm not finding it again as a quick example. But not the one on Spotswood, because that's that second lot in, so that's in a residential.
Oh, that's the one
green
that was
you
added.
see
Okay.
Is sort of part of that addition that happened decades
Mhm.
ago.
Okay, so maybe we will take some time. I have a question, and this is not actually related to this discussion, but since we're looking at this map. If the PDR district is used very much, are we just gonna be ending up with a whole bunch of little spots here and there?
Yeah.
You'll have a few, if we think back in the, I can't remember what the time frame was, 1990 to 2017, 20, we had a dozen. So just,
Right.
I can't imagine that we're gonna have that many opportunities to utilize this, which isn't a reason not to do it, but I don't think you're gonna have that many spots over a period of
I
time.
have a related question. What if somebody comes in and uh, applies for this? Rezoning essentially for their lot.
Mhm.
And they present all the plans and they get the approval and then they don't do it.
All of ours have, and I can't remember off the top of my head, if it's a 2-year or 5-year. So there is
Yeah.
a time limit that the approval goes away if it's not utilized.
And
Right.
that's good to know. And if, say, a subsequent landowner was to demolish the structure or development that had been approved, would the zoning then revert as well?
No, because we're not doing that. We're not doing an overlay, so you don't
Right.
have that to revert to, so it just stays.
Ah,
And for a period of at least 2 years after demolition, they can come back and build the same type of thing. If they have a different plan, then they're gonna come in with a different plan.
okay. That
Um,
makes
go-
sense.
if I may go back, I finally found the property that had thought of before. If you are on McLaughlin Street, right beside, is it the Lime Kiln Park? Is that the small playground at the corner of Lime Kiln and McLaughlin? There's a house directly beside that, now wedged in between the playground and our new stormwater facility. That happens to be in a parks and open space. Mind you, that's a small lot, but it is an example of a house that is in a parks and open space
Mhm.
designation. And therefore, if as written in your second option would not be available for a planned development residential. There's gonna be
Yeah,
a
I-
handful of those
yeah.
types of cases.
Right, but that makes sense. I mean, it makes sense that that's what the future is, you know, that's the whole point of the future land use map, of having a future land use map, is that this guides future development. So, all right, so I guess we still have to decide whether we're okay with, or whether we want to leave both of those there, or whether we want to just go with the future land use map. You all have,
Any preferences? Do you want to do a little bit of homework on the map just to see if that changes your mind? We can certainly leave it to the next meeting.
Does,
Or
does using the future land use map sort of get away from that RLC issue because it's not a
Mhm.
designation?
that's actually a good question, because the future land use map doesn't have the same zoning.
Right?
Um,
That, would that not be another benefit of using the future land use map?
it certainly could be, yeah.
but to throw the complexity back in, just whether or not.
Thanks, Arnie.
Whether or not you want to use the mixed use neighborhood
Oh, yeah,
designation,
that's true.
so it's,
Good point.
there's some of that sort of pink, Pepto-Bismol pink on the map.
Yep.
Whether or not it's appropriate in those or not.
Yep.
All right, so let's see. I'm like, where are we again? Okay, this is the hospital. The blue is the hospital. Hospital. Okay, and this is Maury River Middle School. I gotta orient myself here. This is Brubaker. So that makes sense. That makes sense. And then this, sorry, the pink that's in the middle of downtown, what's in the middle? Is that where the courthouse is?
That's going to be the fraternities that will include General's Retreat that also goes over to Washington, so City Hall,
Okay,
and a couple of those businesses between City Hall and downtown.
okay. So, I mean, that actually makes sense to me. And then another area that's gonna fall under this would be over off of, over near Kendall. So these actually look to me like they make sense to include in the mixed use neighborhood.
Can I just add one thing that I just realized?
Yeah.
You mentioned over close to Kendall, that little splotch of pink. We also had the updated version from your last discussion about the 12-acre property next to it.
Yeah.
And we had that updated map, but this isn't the updated
Right.
map. So just please
But,
be
but
aware
the,
that
but that would
was
be there too. Yeah.
included in your recommendation.
So effectively, that little pink splotch is going to be bigger because now it's 12 acres.
And it's going to have the opportunity area
Okay.
designation on
Yep.
top of it as well. I think we just recycled these from the last meeting.
Okay.
Okay,
I feel very comfortable using the future land use map.
same.
I think it's easy to understand. So
Yep, agreed. Charlie?
I agree.
All right, so let's scratch the other one.
Okay, and well, how about you give some thought to the mixed use neighborhood, just portion of it or not? It sounds like you're comfortable with it.
I am.
I am.
Okay.
I think I am.
All righty,
We can always revisit that. I would leave it in there, but we can always
yeah.
talk about it when everybody else is back.
Yep.
What
Would you like to go to the next section? Your choice.
do you think? 20 more minutes?
Sure.
Sounds
That
good.
work?
Sounds good.
Okay. We'll power through.
We have to address where the uses are permitted and where they're conditional. So the language that we have here coming forward from previous is any use that's permitted in the particular zoning district. Again, that's when it was an overlay. In which the PUD is overlaid is allowed. So that's everything that would have been in R1, R2, RM as an example. Housing types authorized in any of the city's residential districts may be considered, but the project's density shall be no greater than that specified in the underlying zoning district. Non-residential uses of public or semi-public cultural or recreational character shall be permitted uses, provided such non-residential uses shall be compatible with and secondary to the primary residential use. That's a little bit convoluted. I think we had a conversation about that previously. And I think perhaps most of you wanted to get away from that idea of mixing, even if it's on a lower scale and the residential is the primary. But I'll leave it up to you whether or not you want to keep that in. Then I provide you with an alternative again, which is the following is an alternative that is a combination of language from the PDMU that we already have and from our current Lex PDU zoning district. So that's perhaps the one that's interim. So that would be in the planned unit development residential district or zoning district. All uses permitted by right and then I'm pulling specific districts. So saying what are the uses that are by right in R1, R2, RM, and again, RLC is up to you. Zoning district may be permitted. And we have that, as you know, in our use matrix. We have that the zoning district across the top, and we have all the uses listed down the side, and it listed as a permitted use, conditional use, or if there's nothing there, it's prohibited. So that's where we would be pulling from. So again, in the planned unit residential zoning district, all uses permitted by right in the R1, R2, RM, maybe RLC zoning districts may be permitted. So that way a developer knows, okay, I'm proposing this, they can go and check the use matrix and say what I'm proposing is or isn't, and they can move forward from there. The next sentence, additional uses specifically enumerated in the final master plan may be permitted by right at the discretion of city council. Specific uses may also be excluded. This is the big flexibility sort of portion. So what it's saying is, okay, you have those uses that are by right in R1, R2, RM, and maybe RLC, and they propose something else also, or completely only that new thing. And this allows the flexibility for that to be considered, even if it's not one of the permitted uses specifically enumerated in those 3 or 4 zoning districts. So they can go outside the box and propose something else. And something else might be a version of housing that we don't have. We have the very basic typologies, the single family attached, single family detached, townhouse. But now there are other things that are a little bit not as easily defined as what we have in our code. And I'm struggling to think of a good example.
How about tiny houses?
Tiny houses or units where you have a lockout bedroom to be able to rent out on its own. So there's many different ways of laying out housing. So that, just as an example, provides a good bit of flexibility. But again, you're getting a plan, the units, how they're going to be laid out. And if you're comfortable and council's comfortable with it, they can approve it with a use, as long as it's specifically included and known up front what it is, can be proposed and approved according to that language.
And when you say final master plan, that's the one that they are submitting.
Mhm.
Okay.
They're
thanks.
showing it to you.
Very good.
Is to come
Right.
back, if I want to rezone from R2 to R1, I just put that in the application. I don't have to provide you with a plan. But here we're asking for more detail up front in exchange for more flexibility and all the other things that we've already talked about. So they're going to actually provide you something, and how it's going to be laid out, number of units, height, all that. And the approval will say your development has to be in compliance with the concept plan date stamp. But that's how you tie it, and they provide more information up front, which is more work for them. And they risk putting more time and effort into developing that design. But the trade-off is maybe more units, maybe something a little bit out of the box that we're not used to in our very traditional zoning ordinance.
This paragraph is so scary. It's like, oh my God. So the idea that something that is allowed in RLC would be allowed on, I'll go back to Jefferson Avenue or Jackson. That seems, I mean, that goes sort of against what we were just saying, that it has to stick with the neighborhood character. So I'm not quite sure how to say, oh yeah, well, it's like, no, it has to be neighborhood character, but hey, go ahead and you're allowed to do RLC in this very traditional neighborhood.
Somebody might have a really creative thing that may work perfectly, and then we're going to say potentially no, just because we're not allowing the flexibility that we're intending in this district. Just to give you a little example, PDMU is a little bit different because of where it was approved. It is by right in the residential, commercial, civic, miscellaneous, and industrial districts. So they're allowing everything. And I actually should have gone back and pulled from that PUD that we had from that interim PUD. And that it said any use that is permitted by right in commercial, industrial, and residential districts could. So it was really wide open when we had that interim PUD that then ended up being changed to the PDMU. So we have had a good bit of flexibility. We haven't had any applications come in to utilize that, mind you, but it is there for the flexibility. And I'm going to encourage you to have the flexibility, because you have the backstop of saying, no, I think this is not compatible with what's immediately around it. And as long as we have the criteria there to support you, I think it's valuable to have it in here, this language in
Yes,
here for the permitted uses.
This is just use. This is not design. This is not
Yeah, true.
look.
Yeah, true.
So so light commercial? What are some examples? So I'm looking at
RLC?
RLC. So we've got daycare. We've got there's a medical like offices in a row. I'm just looking at this map. What else do we have on here? That's
Assisted
a,
living, that the assisted living down there,
uh,
Havenwood, not Havenwood,
no, I don't, oh, yes, here it is. No, it's not Havenwood.
Yeah.
It's the other one. Yeah, that's this one. Hmm. And then these are medical office buildings in here. So that's what most of this is. And then on McLaughlin, I'm not sure what those are. Those are, oh, there's that studio. There's a studio building.
Wind Fire, whatever it is,
Yeah.
Wind Fire.
Yep.
And then, but there are apartments there also.
Yep, there are apartments. There's the building supply, the old building supply building. There's the Ironworks
The-
place.
Timber framing.
So that's the sort of thing. I mean, there's nothing, I guess, particularly as scary as that. I think it's the,
Fest
yeah.
Center, too. Linfest Center as well.
yeah. What do you all think about changing, and Arnie, I don't know whether this it would be problematic from where you're sitting in the second sentence, additional uses specifically enumerated in the final master plan may be, and instead of permitted by right, what if it was may be considered for approval and permitted at the discretion of city council?
I think that gets to the same thing. Ultimately, it's the discretion of city council. You know what I
Right.
mean? It
It's the word by right that,
Yeah.
that just sort of
may be allowed at the discretion of
maybe,
council.
how about just maybe permitted at the discretion and getting rid of the word by right?
That works.
Okay.
The next sentence, specific uses may also be excluded. Should we say such uses may also be excluded? To refer back to the uses,
Sorry, where are you?
same paragraph. Additional uses specifically enumerated in the final master plan may be permitted at the discretion of city council. Such uses may also be excluded. To refer back to those final master plan. It doesn't matter.
Specifically enumerated. I think that does make sense. Such uses may also, although it's a little confusing to say they may be permitted, but they may be excluded.
Can we just further that that last sentence, says specific uses? Or is it, sorry, enumerated in the final master plan may also be excluded?
Where are you now? Oh,
I like being specific about that. I think that's good. In a way, you could say it's redundant because if it can be approved, it's automatically assumed that they can be excluded, but I like saying
Yes.
it affirmatively. They can also be excluded.
So it's going to follow the same pattern that the sentence before it does. But instead of saying additional uses, it says specific uses enumerated in the final master plan may also be excluded.
Right.
Okay. I think that just gets to the point that there's discretion, there's still legislative discretion. And just because you show it doesn't mean that that use is going to be approved
Right.
necessarily.
Okay. All right. Do we have time to start another, or is that as far as you got? That looks like it might be as far as you got.
And that's as far as I got.
All right. Anybody else have anything else they want to talk about this before we move on? Okay, moving on to other business then. Thank you for all that prep work, Arnie.
Just to
It's
clarify,
confusing and I appreciate you bearing with us.
no worries.
Very much.
So we'll just keep plowing through the sections as we go forward,
Yeah.
as we get are prepared and we go forward, and we'll come back with the intent section revised.
Sounds good. Thank you. All right, do you have a zoning and planning report?
Report,
And did Leslie?
she did not.
No report. All right, we are back to the bottom of the agenda again. Motion and a second. Are we allowed to motion and second
It's
something? We
just-
only have 3 people.
Can't leave.
We're stuck here for the rest of the
Sorry,
week. Darn.
2 weeks until the next meeting and they show up. Need food. Go ahead if anybody wants to make a motion and anybody else wants a second, that'd be great.
Did you move?
I move we adjourn.
I second.
All in favor? Yay.
You all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As long as nobody disagrees, right?
That's right. Well, actually, you all could have voted